condescending is that? I suppose the best thing he's got going for him is that there's no way to actually cheese this. He eats at regular intervals, and his food source is far too high to fire a web glyph on during the feeding, so the best tactic is to fire off a whole bunch of webs and then wait in a safe spot. What was that? Come on. And just keep it going. It's impossible to predict when his vulnerability will line up with the bat roach he's eating, so your best bet is just to fire off a wide variety, or to favour the ones that keep coming up on his second wheel. At the moment there's some silver, some amber, and just turning around is some emeralds. That's 3 different ones. Impossible to tell. Go for variety. I may send out a couple of emeralds, because from what I've seen he tends to favour those in the past. But it seems to change every single time, so who's to say? Not just on these predators, but on the brothers themselves. And unlike the previous colossal battles, more like wars of attrition, Triton is at least fairly likely to eat virtually all of the predators in his chamber. So, paint every single one. Any waste will be negligible, and right now I'm favouring time over colour, so it works for me. I like to make sure it lands though. It's nice to see things interacting at such a distance. And I still haven't seen conclusive evidence that you can't end up with 2 webs gunning after the same predator. I should get enough at the end not to cripple myself now. It's more a question of doing enough damage than being efficient with your colour. Speaking of which, I haven't put any crimson in me yet, have I? I probably went on about that in the pangolin's chamber too. I'm not sure whether you need crimson in your heart when you make the web in order to increase the attack power, or if it's just enough to have it in your heart when the damage is actually dealt. Safer just to have it inside you to begin with. I don't think I'll be able to tell the difference this time, so if you're really curious, then I suggest you get the game and try it yourself. So I'll fire one more off. You really should start putting webs out as soon as you enter the chamber, but I didn't want to get in the way of things. Atmosphere and reveals. I'm not sure what to use now. I am very much against using violet, since it makes me do less damage. I'm okay with crimson, but I've got slightly more amber. That did a fair bit, but of course the health bar is narrower at the bottom. Gurgles away. I'm not sure where that web decided to go though. Maybe there's a bat down there? I think I'm being a bit too optimistic. Of course problems are going to start cropping up. Okay, it just exploded. Yeah, as I said, since I'm recording, all these things will be happening. That's a waste. That's fine. No pressure whatsoever. Even the music agrees. Like some errant sounds have become trapped in this big steel cylinder, ricocheting off the walls haphazardly. Very similar in style to the Pharynx Mine, except it's slightly more calm. It's got the same patchwork moon as the Fireflies Reservation, and both of these start giving the sense that some of the chambers might be linked in some way. At the moment these links are tenuous at best, I'll admit, but in the future we'll see some much more definite indications of this. I think I was in danger of being knocked off this platform by that firefly. That's how the colour that came into the void chose to manifest itself in this chamber as fireflies, which will be nice when I finish up. There'll be a bonus. You can pretty much drop one droplet right on the ground, which somehow remains completely shallow despite the fact that Triton can launch his entire bulk out of the unimagined depths. This can be explained by saying that we can walk on top of the duckweed, just like we can walk on the branches of trees without snapping them. For me, it harkens back to one of the reading assignments I got when I was 7, Tom's Midnight Garden. The clock strikes 13 and a door opens to a garden in perpetual midnight, and at one point Tom finds that he can climb to the very highest branches of a tree. The tiniest little twigs will hold his weight entirely. His shadow of a body was unable to influence the physical objects that he interacted with in this world he found himself in. I'm hoping I didn't just make that up at the time. That would be very much like me, but as I say, I haven't read it since I was 7 or younger. we don't have an influence either, which does a great job at explaining that horrendously picky first-person shooter conundrum, how your character can stand on the very edge of a railing or on a window ledge without tumbling off like anybody else would. For us, it appears as solid ground, and when we fall, our velocity does not increase. I am literally just making stuff up, but hey, it's a nice explanation. Now there's a firefly heading my way, so I'm going to catch that. What a setup. I wonder if the fireflies get shaken around by Triton, or if they just wander down paths where he doesn't jump up at. And there's another one on its way. This is about as efficient a use of this time as you could possibly hope for. Come on? One wheel down. That firefly was too smart for me. And that seems to be the very last predator, flying way too high for the Triton to reach. This could take a while. Of course, the predators need to be in a certain position before the Triton will catch them. They work in unison in that way. It's very hard to tell, but occasionally you'll see one stop and fly in place, and occasionally they're just changing direction, but most of the time they're about to be snatched up. But the complex flight patterns do a very good job of hiding the fact that they are necessarily scripted. Okay, I'm nervous now. I'm on the edge, you stay away from me. Gentle bunny hops. Okay, we're good. Idiocy corrected, no one saw that. He's still way up there. That is a bit tedious. Although I can't say I'd be too accepting of a fate that involved me flying around in circles before getting eaten by an enormous whale-like creature. Aha, but he's descending, and when he comes to rest, yep, fate's a bitch. As far as I know, there isn't an exit down there, and now's not the time to check, so I'm gonna head straight out. Wait for next cycle's respawn. Of course, if I could, I would have ridden his snout right down to the bottom, but we can't have everything. This whole section, compared to the rest, may be a bit disappointingly easy, but then again, I can't think of a better way to have a giant predator that catches the flyers, aside from having a flying giant predator itself, but that would be a nightmare to program, I expect. It all works together though. The chamber, compared to the others, is far less out there. As is the Triton. It's probably the most normal creature, aside from the sisters, that we've seen in the void so far. Its big, morose eyes kind of betraying some intelligence above that of an animal, in that kind of slightly cliched way. Just having a check everything's in mind. Oh, and there's a lot of violet in the worm reservation. I suppose if I was going to do something before I went back, it'd be that, but I'm kind of doing something now, and I've got no room for violet, so if it gets eaten, it gets eaten, but if not, I'll get it later. That did what I wanted, and I've filled up most of my Nerva vials now. I'm gonna trickle some amber through. I'm not really sure what I've got planned. Perhaps I will visit Irene at some point in the near future and give her some of this. Just one of many things I can edge slowly towards and work out properly later.
You're on the right path. Try your almost depleted. You're dying.
Ailey's telling me I'm on the right path. That's nice. If there's anyone I'd trust with knowing which the right path was, it would probably be her. Oh, come on! There was too much talking, I missed that completely. Montgolfier is on exactly where I am now, just sucking up all those fireflies I was saving for later.
We'll talk later about what I have seen here.
That's it. That's what happens if you try and talk to a brother who's feeding on a chamber that you're trying to enter. He's gonna take the lot. I have not before felt this powerless. Ah, this is confusing. Violet is pouring twofold into the worm reservation. I can't really fit the violet in me, but I'm gonna have to try and head there at some point. Just keep myself alive. Top priority. Oh, wonderful. Echo's delusions always chirp me right back up and make me want big shoes.
You see, Aya and I managed to escape our chambers because we were the Sleeper's favorite creations. He was a true master and champion back then, destined for a great future, the kind that changes history. We are his masterpieces, but freedom played an evil joke on us. We became separated from color. You won't stumble on us often, so don't waste time when you do. Free us when we're nearby.